Second Chapters Podcast, The Letter That Waited 40 Years. Hello, dear listeners. I'm your host, and welcome back to Second Chapters, the podcast where we explore the lives we live after we think our stories are already written. You know, we've received hundreds of letters since we started this show. Stories of reinvention, of courage, of starting over when the world told you it was too late. And starting today, I'm doing something different. I'm no longer just curating these stories. I'm leading them to you, myself, because your voices, your experiences, they deserve to be heard exactly as you wrote them. Raw, real, unfiltered. If you have a story, and I know you do, please send it to us because someone out there needs to hear it. Someone needs to know they're not alone. Now, while you're subscribing, while you're hitting that like button, let me tell you about the letter that arrived last Tuesday. The return address was from a woman named Thea Marsden, age 67, writing from a small town in coastal Maine. But the postmark was from Burlington, Vermont, a city she hadn't lived in for over 40 years. And here's what will keep you listening. Thea's letter begins with a question. A single question that made me read her entire 16 pages in one sitting. Coffee growing cold beside me. Tears I didn't expect streaming down my face by page 10. The question was this: can you forgive someone for saving your life if it meant destroying theirs? Let me read you Thea's letter. And I warn you, this one is long. Grab your coffee, settle in, maybe grab a tissue too, because Thea's story deserves every minute we're about to spend with it. This is a story about love found in the most unexpected place, about impossible choices made in impossible circumstances, and about what happens when fate gives you a second chance 43 years too late. Thea's letter. Dear Second Chapters, I'm writing this at 3 a.m. because I can't sleep. Because 43 years ago, I made a choice that saved me and condemned someone else. And last month, on my 67th birthday, that someone walked back into my life. His name is Lowell Pritchard. And if you'd asked me 6 weeks ago if I'd ever see him again, I would have laughed. The bitter kind of laugh that comes from guilt you've learned to live with, but never learned to release. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning, the real beginning. Not the day I met Lowell, but the day I stopped being myself. Part 1, The Girl Who Disappeared. I was 17 when I met Gerard Hoffman at my cousin's wedding in Montpelier. He was 25, wearing a navy suit that looked expensive, and he told me I had remarkable eyes. Not beautiful eyes, remarkable, like I was a specimen worth studying. My mother was thrilled. He's an accountant, Thea. He has a future. What she meant was, you're pretty enough, but not smart enough for college. Marry well while you can. I was 19 when we married in 1977. The wedding was at St. Paul's Cathedral, and I wore my mother's dress because Gerard said buying a new one was frivolous. I remember standing at the altar thinking, this is wrong. But the thought was so quiet, I could barely hear it under the organ music and my mother's proud tears. The first year wasn't terrible. Gerard worked long hours at his accounting firm in Burlington. I decorated our small apartment on South Winooski Avenue, cooked dinners from my mother's recipe cards, played at being a grown-up. I was 20 years old and already felt ancient. The second year, Gerard got promoted. More money, more stress, more rules. The rules started small. Don't answer the phone after 9 p.m. It's probably a wrong number, and it disrupts my sleep. Then, let me know before you visit your sister. I like to plan our weekends. Then, actually, maybe skip this weekend with your sister. She's a bad influence. By year 3, I needed permission to buy groceries that weren't on the list Gerard had written. By year 4, I'd stopped calling my friends because explaining why I couldn't meet them for coffee was more exhausting than being alone. By 1982, at 24 years old, I'd become a ghost in my own life. Gerard never hit me. He'd tell people that later when I finally left, as if the absence of physical violence meant the absence of harm. But there are so many ways to hurt someone without raising a hand. There's the way he'd come home from work and inspect the apartment. running his finger along shelves checking for dust. The way he'd flip through my grocery receipts, questioning why I bought name-brand butter instead of store-brand. We're not made of money, Thea. There's the way he'd stand in the bathroom doorway while I was in the shower, not doing anything, just watching, so I could never have a moment that was completely mine. There's the way he'd make love to me, if you could call it that, with the lights off and his hand over my mouth. "You're too loud," he'd whisper. The neighbors. We lived in a building with walls so thick you couldn't hear someone screaming. I know because I tried. Part 2. The Library on Cherry Street. The Burlington Public Library became my sanctuary in the spring of 1982. Gerard allowed it, encouraged it even, because he decided I needed self-improvement. He'd been invited to a company dinner party, and his boss's wife had asked me about my hobbies. I'd frozen, unable to think of a single thing I did for myself, and Gerard had been humiliated. "You made me look like I married an empty-headed housewife," he'd said on the drive home, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Start going to the library, read something, become interesting." So every Thursday afternoon, from 2 to 5 p.m., I took the bus to the Cherry Street Library. Gerard thought I was checking out cookbooks and home improvement guides. He'd quiz me at dinner. "What did you learn today?" I became an excellent liar. What I was really doing was researching escape. I found a book called When Love Hurts, buried in the psychology section, and it had a checklist. 27 signs of emotional abuse. I matched 24 of them. I started taking notes in a small spiral notebook I kept in my purse. Vermont divorce laws. Women's shelters in Burlington. How to open a bank account without your husband knowing. I was meticulous, careful, planning my exit like a military campaign. And then, one Thursday in late April, I met Lowell Pritchard. I was in the legal reference section, again, and I'd pulled out a thick book on Vermont family law. I was so absorbed I didn't hear him approach. That's heavy reading for a Thursday afternoon. I nearly jumped out of my skin. The book slipped from my hands. He caught it before it hit the floor. "I'm so sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean to startle you. I'm Lowell. I work in reference." He handed the book back to me, and our fingers touched briefly. His hands were warm, slightly ink-stained. The hands of someone who's spent his life with books. "Thea," I managed. He was older than me. I'd later learn he was 41, though he seemed both younger and older than that. He had dark hair graying at the temples, wire-rimmed glasses, and kind eyes. The kind of eyes that actually saw you instead of looking through you. "You're here every Thursday," Lowell said. "Always in this section. Are you studying for the bar exam?" I should have said yes. I should have lied, like I lied to Gerard every evening at dinner. Instead, I said, "No, I'm just trying to figure some things out." Something flickered in his eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. "Well," he said carefully, "if you need help finding anything specific, anything at all, that's what I'm here for. Reference questions are my specialty." He started to walk away, then turned back. "Also," he said very quietly, "the community bulletin board near the front entrance has information about local resources, support groups, that kind of thing, in case that's ever helpful." He walked away before I could respond. I sat there for 10 minutes, my heart pounding, before I went to look at that bulletin board. Among the flyers for book clubs and knitting circles, there was a small card. Women's Crisis Center, confidential support, 24/7 hotline. Someone had added it recently. The pushpin was still shiny. Part 3. Thursdays become everything. Over the next 6 weeks, Lowell and I developed what I told myself was just a professional relationship. A friendly librarian helping a curious patron. But it was never just that. He'd be shelving books in whatever section I was reading in, and we'd talk. Quietly, surrounded by the musty smell of old paper and the distant sound of the card catalog drawers opening and closing. At first, we talked about books. He had a PhD in American literature, he told me. Or almost. He'd been 3 months from defending his dissertation when his father had a stroke. "I came home to take care of him," Lowell said one Thursday. Thought it would be for a few months. That was in 1963. Dad died in 1965. And by then, I had a job here, a small house, a cat. Somehow 19 years passed. Do you regret it? I asked. Every single day, he said honestly. But regret doesn't change anything. You just learn to live with it. I understood that. I was learning to live with regret too. The regret of marrying Gerard, of losing myself so completely. I didn't know if there was anything left to find. As the weeks passed, our conversations deepened. I told him about Gerard's rules, though I tried to make them sound quirky instead of suffocating. He's very organized, I'd say. And Lowell would look at me with those perceptive eyes and say nothing, letting my own words hang in the air until I heard how hollow they sounded. One Thursday in early June, I came to the library with a bruise on my wrist, not from Gerard hitting me. I want to be clear about that, but from him grabbing my arm when I tried to leave the apartment to visit my sister without telling him first. He'd held on too tight, his fingers pressing into my skin like brands, saying we don't keep secrets in this marriage. Thea, I'd worn a cardigan despite the warm weather, but I'd rolled up my sleeves while reading and forgotten. Lowell saw it. His jaw tightened. Thea, he said quietly, we were in the poetry section, completely alone. That's not okay. I bruise easily, I said automatically, pulling my sleeve down. Don't, he said, and there was something fierce in his voice I'd never heard before. Don't make excuses, foreign. Not to me. I started crying right there in the poetry section, silent tears that I couldn't stop. Lowell handed me his handkerchief, an actual cloth handkerchief, like something from another era, and he didn't tell me it would be okay. He didn't offer platitudes or easy solutions. He just said, you deserve better than this. 3 words. That's all it took for me to fall in love with him. Part 4, the evening that changed everything. It was June 23rd when I stayed past closing time. I'd lost track of time reading, and when I looked up, the library was dark except for the emergency lights. I could hear Lowell's footsteps as he checked the building before locking up. Thea? He sounded concerned. I thought everyone had left. I'm sorry, I said, scrambling to gather my things. I didn't realize. It's fine, he said gently. I'm not in a hurry. Stay as long as you need. But I couldn't stay. Gerard expected me home by 5:30. It was already 6:15. I have to go, I said, my voice rising with panic. He's going to... I stopped. Let me drive you, Lowell said. My car's out back. No, I can't. If he sees, then I'll drop you a block away. Thea, you're shaking. Please, let me help. We walked to his car in silence. An old Volkswagen Beetle that smelled like old books and pipe tobacco. It was raining, that soft summer rain that makes everything green smell stronger. Where do you live? He asked. I gave him the address. He drove carefully, almost too slowly, like he was trying to make the 7-minute drive last longer. We stopped at the corner of my street, 2 blocks from my apartment. I should have gotten out immediately. Instead, I sat there, listening to rain drum on the roof, feeling safer in this old car than I'd felt in my own home in years. I can't keep doing this, Lowell said finally. Doing what? Pretending. He was gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. Pretending that I'm just a librarian helping a patron. Pretending that I don't spend all week waiting for Thursday. Pretending that I don't... He stopped, took a shaky breath. Thea, I'm 41 years old. I've been alone for almost 2 decades. I convinced myself I was fine with it. And then you walked into that library, and everything I thought I'd made peace with just shattered. Lowell, you're 24, he continued, not looking at me. You're married, and I have no right to feel what I feel. But I need you to know, if you decide to leave him, you don't have to go to a shelter. You don't have to be alone. I have a spare bedroom. No expectations, no pressure, just safety. Just a place where you don't have to be afraid. I kissed him. I don't know who moved first. Maybe we both did. But suddenly, his hands were in my hair, and I was crying and laughing and kissing him, like I was drowning, and he was air. When we finally pulled apart, we were both shaking. I'll leave him, I whispered. I'll do it this weekend. I'll pack a bag when he's at work and... No, Lowell said urgently. Don't rush this. If you're gonna leave, you need to do it safely. We need a plan. Get your documents together. Birth certificate, social security card. Open a bank account in just your name. Make copies of everything. And when you're ready, when it's safe, then you come to me. Okay? I nodded, even though everything in me was screaming to go with him right now, tonight, before I lost my nerve. I'll be ready in 2 weeks, I said. July 8th. I'll come to the library and we'll leave together. He touched my face, so gently it made me want to cry again. July 8th, he repeated. I'll be waiting. I got out of the car and walked home through the rain. Gerard was standing at the window when I arrived. Waiting. Part 5. The Unraveling. The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in pretending. I played the dutiful wife while secretly gathering documents, squirreling away 20s from the grocery money, planning my escape. Gerard knew something was different. He kept watching me with narrowed eyes, asking odd questions. You seem happier lately. Why? As if happiness needed justification. I'd just been enjoying the library, I'd say. Maybe you're enjoying it too much, he'd reply. July 8th never came. On July 3rd, Gerard came home early from work. I was in the bedroom, counting the money I'd saved, $247 in 1s, 5s, and 20s, when I heard his key in the lock. I shoved the money back under the mattress, but I wasn't fast enough. He was standing in the doorway, his briefcase still in his hand, watching me. What are you hiding? Nothing. I was just making the bed. He crossed the room in 3 strides, flipped the mattress off the bed frame. The money scattered across the floor like evidence. Gerard looked at it, then at me. His face went very still. How long? He asked quietly. How long what? How long have you been planning to leave me? I could have lied. Maybe I should have. But I was so tired of lying. 3 months, I said. His hand moved so fast I didn't see it coming. But he didn't hit me. He grabbed the collar of my blouse and twisted, pulling me close to his face. You ungrateful little... He stopped, breathing hard. After everything I've done for you, given you, you want to leave? Yes, I whispered. He shoved me away. I stumbled against the dresser. Is there someone else? He asked. There is, isn't there? I can see it on your face. Gerard. Who is he? His voice was getting louder. Some loser you met at your precious library? One of those professors who probably can't even pay his own rent? There's no one, I lied. But my face had already betrayed me. Gerard started laughing. It was the worst sound I'd ever heard. You're going to stay right here, he said, while I figure out what to do with you. And if you try to leave this apartment, I will call your mother, your sister, everyone we know, and I will tell them exactly what kind of woman you are. He took my purse, my shoes, the phone from the kitchen wall. Then he went to work the next morning like nothing had happened. Locking the apartment door from the outside, I was a prisoner in my own home. Part 6, The Escape. For 4 days, I was alone in that apartment. Gerard would come home, bring food, watch me eat it, then he'd leave for work again, locking the door behind him. I'm not a monster, he'd say. I'm just helping you see reason. In a few weeks, you'll understand this was for your own good. On July 7th, the day before I was supposed to meet Lowell, I broke a window. It was a stupid, desperate thing. I used a heavy cast iron skillet, wrapped in a towel to muffle the sound. The glass shattered, and I climbed through it, cutting my hands and feet, leaving blood on the white curtains. I ran 6 blocks in my bare feet before I found a payphone. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial. Burlington Public Library, this is. Lowell. I was sobbing. Lowell Pritchard, please, I need him. Ma'am, are you? Please. There was a pause, shuffling. Then his voice, Thea? I'm at the corner of Pearl and Bank. I escaped. Please come get me. Please. I'm already grabbing my keys, he said. Stay where you are. Stay in the light. I'll be there in 5 minutes. He was there in 4. I climbed into his Beetle wearing a torn house dress and no shoes, with blood dripping from my feet onto his floorboards. Hospital? He said immediately. You need... No hospital. They'll call the police. Gerard's friend is a police officer. Please, just take me somewhere safe. He took me to his house on Lakeview Terrace, a small Cape Cod with blue shutters and a garden full of wildflowers. He sat me on his bathroom counter and cleaned the glass out of my cuts with steady hands, wrapped my feet in gauze, gave me tea and his flannel shirt to wear. "You're safe now," he kept saying. "Thea, you're safe. I promise." For 18 hours, I believed him. Part 7. The Price of Freedom. Gerard found us the next evening. I was in Lowell's kitchen, wearing his clothes, feeling human again. We'd spent the day talking, planning, laughing sometimes, despite everything. Lowell had called a lawyer friend who said getting a restraining order would be straightforward given my injuries. "It's going to be okay," Lowell had said that morning. "You're free now." Then came the knock at 7:43 p.m. I froze. Lowell went to the door, looked through the peephole, and his face went gray. "It's him," he said. "Don't open it," I begged. But Gerard was already shouting through the door. "Thea, I know you're in there. Come out or I'm calling the police." Lowell opened the door, blocking the entrance with his body. "Mr. Hoffman," he said, voice steady. "Thea is under my protection. She's not going anywhere with you." "Your protection?" Gerard laughed. "Is that what we're calling it? A 41-year-old man shacking up with another man's wife?" "She's leaving you," Lowell said. "It's over." "Oh, I don't think so." Gerard's voice went cold. "See, I've done some research on you, Mr. Pritchard, or should I call you doctor? Except you're not a doctor, are you? You quit your PhD, came back to Burlington to take care of Daddy. Been at that library for 19 years now, haven't you? Nice, stable job. What's your point?" "My point is that I can destroy that stability with a single phone call." Gerard smiled. "You see, my college roommate, Officer Marcus Daniels, we have lunch every Tuesday, and I'm thinking I might mention to him that a middle-aged librarian has been having inappropriate contact with a vulnerable young woman, that I found my traumatized wife in his home, wearing his clothes, that she has cuts all over her hands and feet that she definitely didn't have before meeting him. Those are from..." Lowell started. "From what?" Gerard interrupted. "From breaking my window to escape? But see, that's just her word against mine. And I'm a respected CPA with no history of violence. You're a failed academic who never married, never had a family, and now suddenly you're protecting a married woman young enough to be your daughter?" I came around the corner. Gerard's eyes found mine. "Here's what's going to happen," Gerard said, speaking to me now. "You're going to come home. I'm going to file for divorce. I'll be the victim of a cheating wife. You'll sign whatever I put in front of you. And in exchange, I won't destroy Mr. Pritchard's life." "You can't," I started. "Oh, but I can." Gerard turned back to Lowell. "I'll tell the library board about your relationship with a patron. I'll suggest they investigate whether there have been others, young women you've taken advantage of. Even if they don't fire you, you'll never pass another background check. You'll never work with books again. Your name will be poison in every library in New England." The color had drained from Lowell's face. "Or," Gerard continued, "you tell my wife that you made a terrible mistake, that you took advantage of her vulnerability, that it's over. You never contact her again, and I'll take a job offer I have in Atlanta. I'll leave Vermont. Clean break. She gets the apartment, the car, everything. No one gets hurt, except you lose a girlfriend you had no business having in the first place." The silence was crushing. "Lowell," I said, "don't. He's bluffing." But I could see in Lowell's eyes that he didn't think Gerard was bluffing. "If I do this," Lowell said slowly, "you give her everything. Apartment, car, bank accounts. You don't fight the divorce. You move to Atlanta and you never contact her again." "Done," Gerard said immediately. "No," I said. "Lowell, no." Lowell looked at me. His eyes were full of tears. "Thea," he said softly, "I'm so sorry. This was my fault. I took advantage of your trust. I mistook your friendship for something it wasn't. You should go home with your husband. Work things out. This was a mistake." The words were Gerard's, but Lowell's voice was saying them. "You don't mean that," I whispered. "I do." He wouldn't look at me. "This is over. It never should have started." Gerard put his hand on my arm. This time, I was too numb to pull away. "Thank you for being reasonable," Gerard said to Lowell. "See? Everyone wins. As Gerard led me out to his car, I looked back once. Lowell was standing in his doorway, one hand pressed against the frame like he needed it to hold him up. He was crying. Part 8. 43 years of silence. Gerard kept his word. He gave me everything. Apartment, car, our joint bank account. The divorce was final in 6 weeks. He moved to Atlanta. I never saw him again. But keeping his word didn't undo what he'd done. I tried to call Lowell. His number was disconnected. I went to the library. They told me he'd transferred to the Newport branch, 3 hours north. I wrote him letters, 47 of them over 2 years. Every one came back, marked return to sender. I finally understood. He wasn't rejecting me. He was protecting me the only way he knew how, by making the sacrifice permanent. By year 3, I stopped writing. By year 5, I'd moved to Maine. By year 10, I'd convinced myself I'd moved on. I dated. I even lived with someone for 4 years, a kind man named Dennis who built boats and made me laugh. But I never married again. Because every man I met, I measured against Lowell Pritchard, and every single one came up short. How do you explain to someone that the standard you're measuring them against is a man who washed blood off your feet, who gave up his own happiness to keep you safe, who sent back your letters because he loved you enough to let you go? The years passed. I built a career as a technical writer, made friends, bought a cottage in Pemaquid with a view of the lighthouse, got 2 cats I named after dead poets, Dickinson and Plath, created a life that looked full from the outside. But there was always a hollowness at the center, a Lowell-shaped hole that nothing else could fill. I kept one photograph from 1982, the only one I had. My sister had taken it at a family picnic in May, before everything fell apart. I'm in the background, out of focus, but Lowell is sharp and clear, looking at something off camera. Looking at me, I realized later. It's a terrible photo, technically speaking, but I kept it in my bedside table drawer for 43 years. Gerard died of a heart attack in 1997. I found out from a mutual acquaintance who thought I'd want to know. I didn't feel anything. Not relief, not anger, nothing. He'd already taken so much from me. I wouldn't let him have my emotions too. But Lowell? I thought about Lowell every single day for 43 years. On my birthday, on Thursdays, every time I walked into a library or passed a blue Volkswagen Beetle on the highway, every time I heard rain on a car roof, I wondered if he'd married, if he'd had children, if he'd been happy, if he ever thought about me, or if I was just a painful memory he'd successfully buried. And then, last month, I got my answer. Part 9. The bookstore on Congress Street. My sister Marlene insisted on taking me to Portland for my 67th birthday. "You never do anything for yourself," she'd said. "We're going shopping and to a nice dinner, and you're not allowed to say no." We spent the afternoon wandering through Portland's Old Port, the brick buildings and cobblestone streets, the smell of coffee and sea salt in the air. Marlene wanted to visit a new bookstore that had opened on Congress Street. "It's independent," she said, "really charming, and they have a cat." I almost said no, almost suggested we go to the art museum instead, but I didn't. The bookstore was called Whitman and Company, a narrow shop with forest green awnings and windows full of carefully arranged displays. A bell chimed when we entered, and a large orange cat looked up from its perch in the window, gave us a disdainful glance, then went back to sleep. Marlene headed for the fiction section. I wandered toward poetry, because some habits never die. There was an elderly woman at the register, asking about large print mysteries, and there was a man helping her, his white hair catching the afternoon light coming through the windows, his voice patient and warm as he recommended titles. I stopped breathing. He'd aged, of course. 65 years old now, his hair completely white, his shoulders a bit stooped. The wire-rimmed glasses had been replaced with more modern frames, but his hands, still gentle as he stacked books for the customer, and his voice were exactly the same. Lowell? His name came out as barely a whisper, but he heard it. He looked up. The book he was holding, an Agatha Christie, slipped from his fingers and hit the floor with a sound like thunder. "Thea," he breathed. We stood there, 20 feet apart, staring at each other like we'd both seen a ghost, which, in a way, we had. The elderly customer looked between us, confused. "Well," she said finally, "I'll just browse a bit more." She walked away, leaving us alone, except for the cat and the afternoon light, and 43 years of silence. "You own a bookstore?" I said stupidly, because I couldn't think of anything else to say. "I bought it 15 years ago," Lowell said. His voice was shaking. "Took early retirement from the library system. Moved to Portland. Thought maybe a fresh start." He trailed off. "The cat's name is Whitman," he added, like that mattered. "I have 2 cats," I said, Dickinson and Plath. We smiled at each other, small, cautious smiles that hurt. "Thea," Marlene's voice from the back of the store. "They have a signed Toni Morrison." I gestured vaguely toward my sister. "Yes," Lowell said quickly. "Of course. I'm sorry for." "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't apologize. Not for this." We stood there another moment. Then Marlene appeared, took one look at my face, and her expression shifted from excitement to concern. "Are you okay?" she asked. "This is Lowell," I said. "Lowell Pritchard. From before." Marlene's eyes went wide. She knew about Lowell. I'd told her the story years ago, late one night over too much wine. "Oh," she breathed. "Oh." Lowell cleared his throat. There's a coffee shop next door. If you wanted to talk? No pressure. I understand if you don't want." "Yes," I said, before I could lose my nerve. "Yes, I'd like that." Part 10. The conversation we should have had 43 years ago. The coffee shop was small, with mismatched furniture and art from local artists on the walls. Marlene, bless her, had excused herself immediately. "I'll be at that wine bar down the street. Take your time." Lowell and I sat across from each other in a booth by the window. He ordered black coffee, I got chamomile tea. We were trying so hard to be normal that it felt absurd. "So," he said. "Technical writer? Mostly user manuals," I said. "Thrilling stuff. You?" "Bookstore owner. Previously librarian for 43 years across various Vermont locations." He smiled sadly. "I transferred to Newport in 1983, spent 25 years there, then Rutland, then decided Vermont had too many memories, moved to Portland in 2010. "I moved to Maine in 1983, I said. "Pemigewid. I have a cottage near the lighthouse." "I know," Lowell said softly. I stared at him. "You know, I kept track of you." He looked down at his coffee. "Not at a creepy way, I hope. I needed to know you were okay, that you were safe, that you'd built a life. I wrote you 47 letters," I said. "I know. I kept them all." The air went out of my lungs. "You kept them?" Lowell pulled out his wallet. From a pocket behind his credit cards, he extracted a worn piece of paper, creased and soft from years of handling. My handwriting from 1983. "I don't blame you. I understand why you did what you did. But I wish you'd fought for us." "I've read this one about 1,000 times," he said. "All of them, actually. But this one killed me." "Then why didn't you respond?" My voice cracked. "Why did you send them back?" "Because I was a coward." He looked up, and his eyes were full of tears. "Because Gerard's threats worked. Not because I believed them. Well, not entirely, but because they reminded me of something I'd been trying to ignore." "What?" "That I was 41 and you were 24. That you just escaped one controlling relationship, and the last thing you needed was to jump into another one, even a kind one, before you figured out who you were on your own." He twisted his napkin between his hands. "I convinced myself that letting you go was the noble thing, that you needed space to heal, to grow, to become yourself without me in the way." "But I wanted you in the way," I said, tears streaming down my face now. "I wanted you. I know, and God help me, I wanted you too. Every single day for 43 years, Thea. Every single day." His voice broke. "But I was terrified that if I came back into your life, I'd just be another person telling you what to do. Another person taking away your choices. So I convinced myself that the most loving thing I could do was disappear." We sat in silence. the weight of 4 decades pressing down on us. "Did you ever marry?" I asked finally. "No. Came close once, in the 90s. Woman named Patricia, a music teacher. Lovely person. But I couldn't." He shook his head. "It wasn't fair to her. I was still in love with you." "I lived with someone for 4 years," I confessed. "Dennis, he built boats. He was kind and funny and absolutely wrong for me because he wasn't you." Lowell laughed, a broken, painful sound. "We're a pair of fools, aren't we?" "The biggest," I agreed. The waitress refilled our coffees. The afternoon light was shifting, getting longer, more golden. Time was passing, and we were wasting it. "Lowell," I said, "can I ask you something?" "Anything. If we could go back, knowing everything we know now, would you still make the same choice? Would you still send me away?" He thought about it for a long time. Really thought about it. "Honestly," he said, "I don't know. The romantic in me wants to say no. I'd fight for us, damn the consequences. But the practical part of me wonders if we needed those 43 years. If you needed them to become who you are now. Not Gerard's wife, not the young woman who needed saving, but Thea. Just Thea." "And what about you?" I asked. "Did you need 43 years of loneliness?" "No," he said firmly. "That part was just waste. That part was cowardice dressed up as nobility." I reached across the table, took his hand. His fingers were spotted with age now, the knuckles swollen with arthritis. But they were still the hands that had washed blood off my feet. The hands that had held me while I cried. The hands that had let me go. "Lowell Pritchard," I said, "I am 67 years old. You are 84. We don't have 43 more years. We probably don't have 20, maybe not even 10. "I know," he whispered. "But I would very much like to spend whatever time we do have together, if you want that too." He turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through mine. "Thea, I've wanted that since April 28th, 1982, the day you first walked into my library." "Then let's stop wasting time," I said. Part 11, what we found in the wreckage. That was 6 weeks ago. We've been together ever since, splitting our time between his apartment above the bookstore and my cottage in Pemaquid. We move slowly, partly because of our ages, partly because we're savoring everything we missed. This morning, Lowell made me coffee exactly how I like it, cream, no sugar. And when I asked how he remembered after 43 years, he said, "I remember everything about you, Thea, everything. We've had to learn each other all over again. The young woman he knew is gone. So is the younger man I loved. But the people we've become, they fit together in ways our younger selves might not have. We talk about hard things, about the years we lost, about whether we made the right choices, about whether there even were right choices in a situation like ours. I used to torture myself with what is," Lowell told me last week. We were sitting on my cottage porch, watching the Pemaquid lighthouse beams sweep across the dark water. What if I'd told Gerard to go to hell that day? What if I'd fought for you? What if we'd had all these years together? And now, I asked, now I think maybe we had to travel separate roads to arrive at the same destination. You had to learn who you were without me. I had to learn that being alone isn't the same as being whole." He pulled me closer. "I don't know if we'd have made it, Thea. If we'd stayed together in 1982. We might have imploded under the weight of trauma and age difference and all that unresolved pain. But we'll never know," I said. "No, we'll never know. And maybe that's okay." I've met his bookstore employees, 2 women in their 30s who clearly adore him and were visibly shocked when I appeared. "We thought he was marrying to the store," one of them whispered to me. "We've never seen him with anyone." He's met my cats, who've decided he's acceptable because he brings them treats and reads poetry aloud while they nap. We've talked about the future, the real, practical future. His health, good for 84, but he has a heart condition. My health, better, but arthritis and high blood pressure. Where we'll live, what happens when one of us needs more care. These aren't romantic conversations, but they're necessary ones. At our age, love means planning for hard things as much as enjoying beautiful things. Yesterday, Lowell asked if I regretted anything. "I regret the time we lost," I said honestly. "But I don't regret who I became in that time. And I think I had to become her before I could truly be with you. The woman who didn't need saving? He asked. The woman who could choose you not because I was running from something, but because I was running towards something. He kissed my forehead. Worth the wait, then. Worth the wait. Epilogue. What I want your listeners to know. So here's why I'm writing to you, second chapters. Here's what I want your listeners to understand. Sometimes the great love of your life will make the wrong choice for the right reasons. And sometimes the most loving thing someone can do is let you go, even when it destroys them to do it. For 43 years, I thought Lowell Pritchard had abandoned me. But he hadn't. He'd set me free. From Gerard, yes, but also from the idea that I needed someone to rescue me. He'd given me the space to save myself. Was it the right choice? I still don't know. What I do know is that the woman I became in those 43 years, the woman who built a career, bought a house, learned to be alone without being lonely, that woman is the one who can truly appreciate what Lowell and I have now. We can't get back the decades we lost. We can't undo the choices we made or the pain we caused each other. But we can make the years we have left mean something. So if you're listening to this and thinking about someone you lost, someone you let go or who let you go, I want you to know it's not too late. It's never too late for a second chapter. Maybe that person is still out there. Maybe they're in a bookstore in Portland or a library in Burlington or a cottage by a lighthouse, thinking about you just as much as you're thinking about them. And maybe, just maybe, the universe will give you one more chance. Don't waste it. Lowell and I are planning a small ceremony next spring. Nothing fancy, just a few friends and his bookstore cat as ring bearer. He says at 84, he's not taking any chances. I've waited 43 years to marry you, he told me. I'm not waiting another day longer than necessary. I said yes before he even finished asking, because here's what I've learned. Love after 60 isn't about passion or fireworks or dramatic gestures. It's about choosing each other every single day with the full knowledge of how precious and finite time is. It's about making coffee exactly right, about reading poetry aloud to cats, about holding arthritic hands and planning for hospice care and still feeling like the luckiest person alive. It's about looking at someone across 43 years of silence and saying, yes, still yes, always yes. That's my story. That's my answer to the question I started with. Can you forgive someone for saving your life if it meant destroying theirs? Yes, you can forgive them. And if you're very, very lucky, if the universe is kind and timing finally works in your favor, you can love them anyway. With hope and gratitude, Thea Marston. P.S. Lowell read this letter before I sent it. He wants me to tell you that he's sorry for being a colossal idiot for 4 decades, but he's working on making up for lost time. He also wants you to know that second chances are real, and it's never too late to come home to the person who sees you. I need a moment. Thea, if you're listening, and Lowell, if you are too, thank you. Thank you for trusting us with this. Thank you for showing us that love doesn't have an expiration date, that courage can look like letting go, and that sometimes the longest journey is the one that brings us back to where we started. And to everyone listening, if you have someone you've been thinking about, someone you lost or let go, someone you think about on Thursdays or when it rains or when you see their favorite book in a store window, reach out, send the letter, make the call, walk into that bookstore. Because Thea and Lowell lost 43 years, but they found each other anyway. What's your story? What's the chapter you haven't written yet? Send it to us. Your story matters. Your second chapter is waiting. This is Second Chapters. I'm your host. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, it's never too late for love. It's never too late for forgiveness. It's never too late to come home. Until next time, may you all find your second chapters.